conquer and we're going to take some. Is that understood? Yes, sir. That's what we're going to do, sweetheart. We are going to go and get some. All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! What are you?
The September issue of EP Magazine focuses on the elderly. Read the current issue and past archived issues for free at www.epmagazine.com.
Monotony. It comes in all shapes and sizes. Dull, tedious, just plain boring. But what is this? A contender, perhaps? Something unboring by the looks of it. Jabs right at dull, an uppercut to tedium, something that keeps you on your toes, keeps your head on a swivel, a knockout punch to your old, boring workouts. Welcome to Fight Camp.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of Reach Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
Marines are made for this. Made for the calling only warriors can answer. Made from an unshakable belief in our nation and a strength that comes from the determination to win together. But you'll have to earn your place among us, because you don't join the Marines. You become one.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis, Marine Corps veteran and your host. Oscar Mike Radio is co-produced with Sinister Wind Productions. What's your podcast doing? I want to thank my sponsor, Joyce Asack from Asack Real Estate, and my supporters, Kason Shaving Company, Exceptional Parent Magazine, and Fight Camp. This is kind of an ironic show. We're recording this on National PTSD Awareness Day. This is June 27th, 2025. And so it wasn't planned out this way, but it worked out this way. And it's kind of relevant because my next guest comes through me by way of tip of the spear and those amazing veterans there. Dr. Ariel Jordan served in the Army, and now she does, all kinds of stuff that we'll get into. And I want to welcome you, Doctor, to Oscar Mike Radio. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here and meet with you today.
I like to start off with the military side of who you are. You served our country and did that before we get into all the good stuff you did after service, and it's all good. So tell us a little bit about your military experience and how that all worked out for you, Doctor.
Yeah, so I joined the military when I was 17. I graduated high school at 16 and didn't want to work at McDonald's anymore. So I was like, get me out of here. And went to the recruiter and told him, like, how fast can I leave? and I needed to like I grew up in a small town, so I was ready to get out of there and
They
do
must have
something.
loved you.
Oh my gosh, it was rough. It was rough. Actually, I grew up dealing with a lot of racism
Oh,
and
wow.
it got old. And I was like, how do I, that's also why I graduated high school so young too, because I worked really hard. Because I was like, I know I have to complete this, but this other noise is not great. So I did finish. And then I was like, what does life have to offer me? And that's where I went to the Army recruiter and got out of there. And everybody asked, like, how did you pick Army? And I just went to the closest station and like there was no thought behind it, at age 17, there's no thought behind it.
Wait a minute. So you literally, got high school a year early and said, I just want to do this, and walked into the recruiting station.
Yeah, I had already taken the ASVAB because you could get out of whatever period class it was, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'll go take it. And I actually ended up scoring well because I guess I was reading the questions and answering the responses, but it was cool. My dad was a Navy vet. He was in Vietnam, and I know that like my uncles were in the service and my grandfather on my mom's side was in World War II. And so like I knew there's military background, but it's all the men and there were no women that I knew of that went to the service. So I was doing something completely different and I had to get my parents permission to do it. And they were like my dad was like, no. He was like, absolutely not. And he said there it's no place for a woman. And I took it the wrong way. I took it like I can do anything, and that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant at all. He lived through Vietnam and also he was a black soldier in Vietnam, so that experience was pretty tough for him. So I get where he was coming from now, but as a teenager, no, I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. But I convinced him because there was not many other opportunities there. So him and my mom signed, and then I was off to the army.
So you join the Army, you go through boot camp, and what was your MOS when you got out of boot camp in AIT?
So I was a 92 golf, which now is a culinary specialist cook. And so I went to culinary school after basic, and that was at Fort Lee. And I already knew how to cook, but it was cool, like learning how to cook the army way. That's a little bit different. You gotta follow recipes and all that kind of stuff.
And cook for like hundreds of people at a time.
Hundreds, yes. I think the most was maybe like 500 at a training. We were in Nevada and it was a mobile kitchen trailer that we were cooking on. And
I wanted
so,
to ask you about that because they
yeah.
brought those out for a field exercise we were doing, and it was a
Mhm.
complete mobile kitchen,
Yeah.
running water the whole 9 yards right there.
Yes. Yep. Generators and, the place where you eat as well. So, people think like, oh, cook is easy. And it's really not. Like, you still have to do everything that everybody else does. And, you have to get up really early to make sure that breakfast is ready for everybody before they go out. They get MREs for lunch, and then we maybe take a little nap where they're getting MREs, and then we have to get right back up and prep for dinner. So your sleep is broken. So you're after dinner, you're cleaning up. So you're there pretty late, and then you got to get right back up to do it again. So, the broken sleep can get to you if you let it.
Well, that too is, we had some not so good chow experiences sometimes in the field. And even though we
Hmm.
weren't in combat, by day number 7 of us having, the cooks were mad. I don't know what was going on. Like the lieutenants almost had to order us to eat this stuff because we wanted just to eat the MREs.
Yeah,
So when the food goes bad, the whole mood goes bad. You all are very important.
absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
important.
I actually ended up getting a challenge coin for that Nevada training because I smiled all the time and made jokes and laughed and that kind of stuff. And that was what he said when he gave me the coin. It was a command sergeant major, and he said, "You know what? You really just kept us going like every day." And I just being me. So I was like, "Really? I get it." I was so honored. But I was like, for being myself, I love this.
How long did you serve in the Army, Doctor?
9 years.
Nine
I
years.
I switched to reserves and then completed my time, but I got out on a medical retirement.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I actually had tore my shoulder and didn't know I tore it at the time, and time went by and I had trouble with my unit getting medical care, and there was a congressional in there, and finally got my medical care, and then by that time it was like a med board started and everything. So I actually ended up getting out before my contract was over.
So, is this where the beginning of your path to doing this, mental wellness, resilience, and other kinds of training? Is this what started it?
Well, I was still in when that started. Like, so while I was in the service, I got pregnant, got married, and our daughter had a terminal illness, and she was born with pulmonary vein stenosis, and so there's no cure for it even today. So I knew it was terminal. They told me like when we found out, like I think she was like 3 months when we found out. And I knew that part, but I was still in the reserves. And I just kind of did everything I could for her. We moved to Boston to be at Boston Children's Hospital and switched my unit and, still was reserve unit and stuff like that. But I I think going through that journey is what led me to the mental health field because then I was studying business and I got my associates in business. But it all changed direction for me because I was like, you know what? After I lost her, my dad passed away, and like that year was just ugly. And then I started a divorce process too, all in the same year. And I was like, how do people live after life keeps gut punching you, you know? And so I got curious and I started learning about psychology. And that's where it began. I started to kind of fall in love with the brain work and then realized shortly after that there was only so much impact I could make. And then I was like, I need a master's degree. I gotta go clinical mental health and get licensed. And then I was like, well, the pandemic happened then. I was like, I'll just get my PhD and I'll teach therapists how to be great therapists. And so it just kept going after that. But it started with
Is
loss.
so, not just a little loss,
Yeah.
marriage, daughter, father who had a very
Yeah,
deep impact on your life. And
absolutely.
and so now you're teaching this, but you've also lived this.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yep.
one of the things for me, and when I went to therapy for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
is like this person has never lived this. How are they
Right.
talking to me about this? So,
Yes.
so how does that influence or affect how you approach people's situations then? Because you've had to live what they're going through. Maybe not, but you understand loss on a very personal level.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful because people could tell, like, even when I worked at Walter Reed, the active duty people would come in and talk to me about stuff, and they would tell me, like, we can tell, like, this isn't just book knowledge, and book knowledge is great, but lived experience trumps it every time because people know, like, they might judge you or the way that you look, like, okay, here we go. I'm going to this therapist here. But if I share a little bit about me, I don't need to tell them my life story or anything like that, but I can share with them that I've experienced pain that's very deep. Then they start to kind of like let their guard down a little bit and say, okay, so you know what I'm talking about then, especially if I share that I'm a veteran too, and that I've been through basic training and all the other things, then they're like, okay, now we can talk because we're kind of on the same level here.
Was education during this time of loss kind of a way to cope and heal for you? Or was it the goal, like I'm going to become a doctor so I can, you know, help others heal?
Yeah,
Was it,
I
or was
think
it a little bit of both?
I was gonna say I think it's a little bit of both
Yeah.
because I needed to be busy in a positive way because I worked in substance abuse when I got my bachelor's degree and I helped people get off of heroin and other opiates. And I would talk to them about their stories and how they got there. And some of them were parents that have lost children. And so I'm thinking in my head, why did I not go that route? Like it's still pain, it hurts a lot. And it was just interesting that I made a different choice. So I would assure them, like, I'm no better than you. Listen, we both hurt and we both have to cope, but it's just the choices that we make when it comes to how do we cope. And so for me, it was more like I'm gonna finish my degree and have some purpose behind the loss rather than let the loss take over my life.
Not to stay too long here, but I do want to kind of understand that. Like you
Mhm.
had some forks in the road, to coin a phrase, right? You had
Yeah.
some choices to make, and you didn't make a negative choice. You chose to dig in and make a positive choice, or a choice that would have a positive outcome.
Yeah, I mean, my first choice was negative. So let me share that part too.
Okay.
When it first happened, I didn't know what to do with myself, and it's almost like you're losing an identity. And every parent's worst fear is to that they're gonna lose their kid, and like that happened, in real life. And I was there for the last moment. And then a couple months later, I lost my dad and I was there for the last moment. And so I'm like, what else? By then the divorce didn't even matter that much. So for me, I was like, okay, well, I just need to go to the bar and just sit here because I don't want this pain to keep going. But after about 2 weeks of that, like maybe not every day, but just like often, it was too much. I was like, I can't, like, first of all, I don't feel good physically. And I don't like I know the bartender probably knew all of my business. So I was like, okay, well, how do we do something different here? And for me, I had to leave my hometown where I was living at that time, because I needed to do something different, and I needed to not be my only identity because I would walk in stores and they would say, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, well, I was trying to be, but actually, no, now I'm not. And so I moved and I went to school on campus at Delaware State. And that's what allowed me to only share that if I wanted to share that because nobody knew me. And so that's what allowed me to focus on the books. And then if I wanted to share that part of me, I could. But if not, I could just keep it to myself. All they knew was I was another student, a transfer student.
So you go through this process where you understood you had to remove yourself and put
Hmm.
yourself in a different environment and then get your doctorate. What started happening to you as you go through your doctorate process, as you're healing from, these, three losses right in a row?
Yeah, man, it was hard. I had to look in the mirror. And I mean, I think anytime you're studying like psychology or you're trying to become a therapist, you cannot help but to be different than you started because you have to face your stuff and there's a level of self-awareness that comes with that. And so you can never really be the same. So as I'm going through the program, I'm learning so much about myself and how to cope and how the brain changes with healing, like physical changes, and learning about the neurobiology behind it. And, so there's a lot of like encouragement that's happening, but it's also really, really challenging too, because everything feels like a trigger, and then I'm learning, okay, what do I do with the triggers and how do I get through this? So almost like self-help, but to the extreme.
Is the mind really that powerful, doctor?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
'Cause, uh,
Yeah, go
well,
ahead.
I want to bounce something off you because,
Yeah.
through my life, I nothing like what you went through, but I did go through a period of loss and physical trauma.
Mm,
And one thing I found out is, you can get pretty comfortable being in pain.
Yep.
In other words, I knew what pain was. I knew it. I could almost see it, and I was comfortable in it. And it was very hard to kind of let go and let healing take place because
Yep.
I was so comfortable being in pain. Do you find that in your own experience being a provider?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times where we're used to chaos, and that's like the norm, or we're
Yeah.
used to like pain as the norm. And like we learn how to cope. We're survivors, we're resilient, we're soldiers, there's a lot of resilience that comes with that. And something I learned along the way was like, just because you're resilient doesn't mean that you're healing. And that looks a little bit different. And so that's what I chose to do my dissertation on, like looking at those kind of things.
Now, why is that? Now, that's just blowing my mind. But why is no, no, no? But because usually it's like, well, I'm resilient. I can take a punch. I can take lice.
Yeah.
I'm okay. But it's not healing. It's not.
Right. Because
Okay.
resilience means survival. And we've learned that if you've been through basic training, if you've been through hard circumstances in life, we have learned to be resilient. Kids that go through childhood trauma, that kid adapts to live, whatever that looks like. And so all of us have it, it's a good thing to have, right? However, at some point, when does that start to harm you? And it looks different for each and every person. So going back to my substance abuse experience, at some point, that resilience equals, okay, I drink a little bit, or I will do a little bit of drugs, to forget it, but then it comes right back. So now I got to do a little bit more, but then it comes right back. And so it's like now I've gotten to this point where I'm not necessarily choosing to be a drug user, but I have to because this is how I know how to cope. And this is how I know how to survive this thing. And so that's where the trauma healing comes into place because we have to go back and get it. Wherever we got stuck in our trauma, we have to go back and get it and give ourselves a new narrative. And so that we can cope, but in a better and a healthy way.
You go through all this, you complete your education, become a doctor, Dr. Jordan, who is with me here on Oscar Mike Radio. But you had to build your own practice to do what you're doing now. Kind of take
Yeah.
me through the business side of building yourself out as a practice, and then working on what you have learned over the course of your lifetime.
Yeah, business wise, I bootstrapped it all the way. Um, it was really out of necessity at first. Like I worked at Walter Reed for a little while after the substance abuse clinic, and um, I took those skills to get my license, and then I worked at a clinic here that specializes in trauma. And then my mom, I think she broke her knee. Yeah, it was her knee that she broke. And she lives about an hour and a half away. So I had to be there for her. And traveling back and forth was starting to get to me. Um, so I was like, you know what? I got to do something different. And for this job, I couldn't be all telehealth. And so I said, I'm gonna have to put in my notice and start something of my own. And so it literally was just that. I got to. And so when I started to do that, luckily the practice that I worked for, they didn't care if you took your clients or not. There was not a non-compete or anything like that in
Okay.
place. So they were like, okay, are they coming with you? And I asked every person, and I think everyone but two came with me. So now I have this new practice with like 28 people. And so that was really cool, but I was overwhelmed. And I just had to kind of figure it out. Like I knew the therapy part, but I didn't know like about the billing and all the extra hours that you put in to set it up. So I kind of built the plane while I was flying it.
How has all this figured into what you do now then? Because you don't have a typical, medical practitioner experience where you got out of high school, went to college, and, got your master's and got your doctorate. You've taken a very different route.
Yeah, For me, I don't want people to struggle like I did. So I always tell people I became who I needed back then. And like I remember being in the service and getting out. And there was a period where there was a break where I wrote to get out because I wanted to focus on my daughter. And then that was like December 2013, where they granted me the IRR where I could be in the inactive ready reserves. And then January she died. So I was like, put me back in because I don't know what to do with myself. And so like there was a period where I was like, I see why when we get out we struggle because then it's like, what do I do now? And I don't have this backup plan here. And then everybody says go to therapy. So I went to therapy, but my therapy experience was not good. And I was invalidated in my therapy experience. So all of this has helped me because when I show up, I don't ever want people to feel invalidated. And if they do, I want them to tell me so we could talk about it. And I just try to make it so that I walk with them on their journey and they don't have to feel alone. And same thing on the coaching side, like coaching business owners through the mindset stuff that comes up, like the imposter syndrome or the black or white thinking. And I kind of help them through those challenges as well, but more on the coaching. Yeah.
One of the things you also do is you're like a mental wellness speaker and you've authored some books. How did
Yeah.
you get into speaking about this? Is it just another way to offer a service, or is this really something that you want to share your story with others as a way to heal as well?
Yeah, I want people to know like, even if you don't go to therapy, there's other ways that you can get help or feel seen or heard or get tools or tips. The first time I spoke was actually in college, and it was a lupus walk that they were having. And that was the first time I publicly spoke about losing my daughter and how like I still had to keep going. And that was when I was in my undergrad program, and I was like, wow, what made me do that? But I think it was to just tell my story. But also I people kept coming up to me afterwards and they were like, thank you for this. This really helped me and inspired me. And now I'm gonna go do this thing. And I'm like, oh, really? Just from what I said just now, you know? And so I realized it had value. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna maybe I'll write a story. And it took me years to write my book, like 10 years to write my book, because it
Oh,
was hard
wow.
because you're going back to the
Are you,
place. And so I was like, okay, this is hard. I need some help. So I ended up getting a book coach and we worked on it together. And finally, I had a published product, but it was hard.
because you're having to experience all that again and then put it down on words. I mean,
Yeah.
you're trying to put that behind you, but it's got to be brought up again. I
Mhm.
guess for the speaking part of it, it's kind of different for me because generally when I think of a therapist or a mental health professional, the patient's talking to you. You're not talking to, people or the patient.
Right.
So it's different.
It
But
is.
you said people responded to it though, well, right?
Yeah, I just spoke last month at Disabled American Veterans headquarters, and they have a Patriot Boot Camp that they do for entrepreneurs. And I was like, I wonder if I could bring the mental health perspective and what how that would be and how that would land. And it was really cool because I created a framework and I shared that with them and it landed. Like you could see the wheels turning, and some of the vets they shared in the group setting, they shared some deep stuff. Like a guy there had lost his child and he talked about how he feels like a nervous wreck sometimes. And we were able to kind of talk that through. And then you saw like the group support him too, like telling him like what they do to get through stuff. And it was a whole moment. And I was like, yes, this is why I do what I do. Like it was beautiful.
Well, it's kind of one of the things I want to ask you is you have to give of yourself for this kind of work.
Yeah,
It's not just listening there. You have to lean in and be connected with the person who's coming to you for help.
right. Exactly.
What's it like walking their journey with them, Dr. Jordan?
Oh man, I love it, but it's hard. You know,
Yeah.
so like if I do something like that, I don't schedule anything else. I need to rest afterwards because I feel very drained when I'm done. But I love it while we're doing it. It's very much you're not alone type of thing. And also let's figure this out together. And that's what changes lives right there is the hope that we plant. And not only the hope that we plant, but the actual skills and tools. Because a lot of people want to know, what do I do? Like, I hear you. I know I'm supposed to feel my feelings, but what do I do when I feel them? And so we take it a step further and they're like, oh, so I can start to practice this. And it's the same thing as skill building, but it's mental.
And as you're going through there, I mean, there is a cost, right? I mean, not just the the
Mhm.
the the, the time and everything, but there is an energy cost. What
Yeah.
do you more than rest? What do you do to recharge your inner battery so you can keep working in this space?
Yeah, I learned like when I was writing my dissertation, I wrote it on um I looked at Black mothers who have lost their only children because that was my story. And so I learned through this process that after I interview each woman and we talk about their grief, and one of the ladies, oh my gosh, her story was very similar to mine. But what I
Wow.
learned is I had to journal after everyone. I had to keep a reflective journal because their story is not mine. So I don't want to internalize their story, but you do a little bit. So externalizing it would be putting it in the journal and giving it to the journal and then kind of closing it. And that was the closure for me. So I try to do that after events and stuff like that. And there's a lot of gratefulness that I practice. A lot of gratitude comes from these experiences too.
So hypothetically, I come to you and say, Dr. Jordan, I'm in this state, X state, I'm not well. I know I need help. I don't know quite what to do. What is your process then to intake that patient and start walking them through this journey?
Well, I operate with curiosity. I want to know like more specifically what challenges they have. My goal is to know more. So I'm gonna be kind of quiet and just listen to like what's happening for them. So if somebody's coming to me for work stress or something like that in the therapy world, I want to hear more about how it's affecting them. So like most of the time it's like sleep problems, or if somebody's coming like for I'm trying to think of a PTSD case. There was a shooting here that happened, and a person that I got them almost like a year after, so they were actually really struggling with not sleeping, with loss of joy in life, that they don't want to do the things that they used to love doing, and they started to see themselves decline, and they started to see someone that wasn't trauma trained, and that actually made it worse for them. So by the time they got to me, there was a lot of like work that we needed to do to even create safety in their body, because they had such a huge startle response that every time, this was in person, every time the radiator would click, they would almost jump out of their skin.
Wow.
And so me and him did a lot of work together, and after like I don't know, I do EMDR therapy, so that's the eye movement therapy, and it gets to the trauma center of the brain to help move you forward. And we
How's
did
now,
that.
now, now, I don't
Yeah,
know, but how's
yeah,
that work?
it's
What's
so
EMDR stand for?
so eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So,
Okay.
so a lot of words. So I tell people the eye movement therapy, and but what it does is you're following somebody, like
Okay.
watching their eyes, or you can do tapping, but it stimulates your brain bilaterally, so left and right. Left is mostly logic, right is emotion. So we have to connect that in order for our trauma to move forward. And so with this person, we know how to compartmentalize, right? Because we know how to
Right.
survive. We put it away. This person put it away, of course, but the put it away was showing up in nightmares and, all type of things that were happening for this individual. Once we go in and we have the bilateral stimulation, it allows the brain to connect with the experience and what happened in a safe environment. And so he doesn't even have to tell me what happened. We just need like a headline. So for instance, one of it was like, the shooter's eyes. I still see the shooter's eyes. And so when we do the session, he doesn't have to tell me exactly what's happening, but whatever's happening in his brain is connecting all the dots. And so it's intense, but also the intensity dies. So it's like a wave. So it's intense because I have to face it. But once I face it, it starts to lose its power. And so he was very fascinated, like, I still see them, but it's not causing the same reaction. And that's where the healing takes place because I still see it. It's still happening. We're not changing reality, but literally it doesn't have that power over me. And then his startle response went away too. He wasn't jumping out of his skin just for every click or every car going by or anything like that. So and that's why this is one of the number one treatments that the VA recognizes for PTSD. So
So,
there was much more work to do, but that was like the start of his work, and it was very beautiful to see that calmness just come over his body.
now I don't know much about this area, but one thing listening to you is that I'm not hearing is, hey, I prescribed X medication for this Y, issue. And
No.
is that by design, or are you trying to find ways to not use medication? Because when I think of therapist, I think of the guy saying, hey, you know what, 10 milligrams of Xanax a day for the next, as needed. But I haven't heard that in
Mm.
your conversation with me.
Yeah, and so I try to take my personal bias out of it and I ask them what they want. So that particular case did not want to be on medication, but they had to be because they were having nightmares every night. So I told them, okay, we're gonna have to go to the trauma and we'll see. I can't guarantee you anything, but we'll try this out, right? And so I'm like, I think I know exactly what you need. So we go through the process, and I think maybe like 3 or 4 months, he was able to contact his medication prescriber and start to wean off of it because he wasn't having nightmares anymore. He was having like how we normally have nightmares, like once a blue moon, and so, but it was every single night, like predictable. And so he had to kind of face it. And when he faced it, that's when he was able to start to like work through what some of the challenges were. And I do this in groups too, and it's really really cool because your brain changes, and like there's studies to show like the physical changes that your brain is making as well. So we always talk about PTSD and we know all the effects of it, but post-traumatic growth looks like brain changes too, but it's changing in a way that I'm getting rid of some of the stuck points. I don't have to stay there anymore. It's already happened. I've already faced what's still bothering me about it, and now I'm good to go. So
You
it's
know,
not, but it's work, but we get there.
one thing that comes to mind as we're talking is, I'm was of the mindset that, we know a lot about the brain, but it seems like, you know, there's a lot about the brain we don't know. Am I right in thinking that, doctor?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we do know, but I think there's also a lot that we don't know. And so I try to always use evidence-based theories in my work because like EMDR has been heavily researched. And so there's literally a protocol. And as a military person, we love a good protocol, So I like went to this because exposure therapy is kind of painful for people. And I mean, it works too, but if I could do this method to where it's not as painful, I'm gonna do that. That
Yeah.
sounds better to me. Hmm.
Um, as you go through and one, build out your practice, but two, and it is practice, what do you feel is the next challenge for you? Because, underneath it all, I think you like a challenge, Dr. Jordan. I think you like a challenge. You
That's
got to
true.
have something maybe I'm wrong here, but is there another challenge you want to,
Mhm.
head face on?
Yeah, I wanna do I'm building my first retreat, and that has been challenging because there's so much that goes into building it and securing the space and all the things. And but I don't want it to be a trauma retreat. I want it to be for the veteran or the spouse, the family, first responder, caregiver, like people who they hold all the weight and they need to just put it down for a minute. We can hustle to have our businesses and stuff, but we also need some harmony with that as well. So that's what I want to create. I want to create a space to do that. And that's been my next challenge. And it has been challenging because I need help with this. And so asking for help, right? Learning that we need others and that it's okay to ask. That's been a journey for me.
Oh, well, what a different side of the coin, if you will, of in order to heal more, you need to ask for help to heal. In
Hmm.
other words, become your own patient almost. I'm
And
just
I
saying.
and I do I seek help too. Like now I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is about, but I need to explore this a little bit because I don't want to stay stuck here because that would keep me from doing my next thing.
Yeah, yeah. How can people, I mean, do you just treat locally or do you do telehealth across the nation? I'm asking because if people want to contact you, for treatment, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so for therapy, I'm licensed in Maryland and Virginia.
Yeah.
So that license is strictly those two places. So Maryland law says if I treat somebody for therapy, they need to be in the state of Maryland. So that could be telehealth, it could be in person. A lot of times I'll go to like the Veteran Service Center and get like a drop-in space and we can do that there. But as for like coaching or training or speaking, that can be wherever. Like last year, I spoke at a retreat in South Africa,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, so I get around if I need to.
What was that experience like?
Man, it was incredible. I was like, do I have to go home? It was so cool, like welcoming, and this was with other clinicians and a couple people that actually are live and are from South Africa joined us. So it was a really incredible experience. And again, just sharing my story and sharing more on the speaker side of how it resonates with people and to share your story. And that was cool.
Awesome, awesome. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm out there and I want to learn more about you, your services, your books, and your speaking. What's the website to contact you, Dr. Jordan?
Yeah, so I put everything in one place. It's bio dot Ariel, Arielle, N for Nicole, Jordan, JORDAN.com. So bio dot Ariel N Jordan.com.
Well, I will have that link on the Oscar Mike Radio website post for this podcast. You'll be able to go there and check it out. Um, I think I've learned that really what the mind can conceive, the mind truly can achieve, but also it almost
Mhm.
sounds like you get people to a point where they can heal themselves almost, if I'm listening to you correctly.
That's the key.
Um, that's the key.
Yeah, like knowing that your brain can heal is incredible. And you might need somebody in the passenger seat to like tell you the directions on how to get there. But essentially, you're doing it yourself, which is what I really love about it too, because I'm not doing it. You're doing the work. And so that's super empowering for you because all you needed was like to to let me guide you there. But once you got there, you're like, huh, that's interesting. This no longer bothers me the way it used to. And some people don't believe it because it happens so fast. And then like I'll check in with them the week after and they're like, this is wild. Did you hypnotize me? And I'm like, no, you were aware of what you were doing the whole time, right? So no, it wasn't. It wasn't hypnotism.
What's it like at that point, seeing them accept this and do things they didn't think they could do, or just
Mhm.
have a better quality of life, doctor?
We'll start laughing together because it's kind of funny because I think that we just don't know that this will work. They come to me hoping, and then I'm like, okay, if you're curious, we can do some work. Let's try it. And so I actually had a previous client that was dealing with crying spells, and every time you mention like the job, tears would drop. And after one EMDR session, they noticed that I can hear about it, and tears aren't dropping. It still bothers me, but I'm not crying. And I'm just like, huh. And that was like 1 week later. So it's really cool to see it happen because what I know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to be better, but I don't know exactly how it's going to be better. And then when they report back, well, I noticed I took a pause before I went from 0 to 100. That's the kind of stuff that they notice, and that's the real like lifelong changes that they'll take with them forever.
So the change is forever. You can heal yourself. You just got to be curious enough to want to do the work. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on Oscar Mike Radio and sharing with us. I have just, I'm going to go back during editing and just really have to slow this down and play it a couple times. But I've learned a lot, Doctor, and I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I love to have these type of conversations and just encourage people that if you want to try something different, if you get it from a talk that you went to, if you get it from a book, or if you get it from individual or group therapy, whatever way you get it, just get it, because we can live well. We can live better,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, I'm going to have your link, Doctor, in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. Reach out to Dr. Jordan. Also, hey, are your books for sale?
Yeah, so I'm on Amazon, and that bio.ariellandjordan.com has those links as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll have a couple of those links in the show post as well. I'm interested in checking out your authorship and what you've done. And as I want to say here in Oscar Mike Radio, I hope you've learned something. And we're going to close this out with Mission Flight. Thank you very much.
The biggest fear Gold Star families have, that their child will be forgotten.
We need to never forget freedom wasn't free.
It's the fact that they give us the life we have now. We should remember them and give thanks to them.
If I can be a part of something today that's going to make the surviving family of any of these veterans, these heroes, feel better tomorrow, then it's worth it.
That one wreath symbolizes one family that was able to smile because of the generous donations.
To sponsor a wreath and honor a veteran, visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load Co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.